We're getting to that point in the offseason where Nebraska recruiting is really starting to catch fire. And man, oh man, we have seen some huge news drop over these past couple hours. The Huskers are getting close to landing not one, but two brand new commits. I'm going to reveal who these guys are, what they bring to the table, their pros, their cons, when you can expect announcements, along with a massive offensive line update, some positive elements coming with the defensive line, a newcomer at tight end that you need to know, along with the wide receiver core, some hidden gems the Huskers are pursuing along with all the 5 stars. Our first commit coming in the class of 2028, all the players visiting in these next couple weeks, and so much more. So really quick, this is a loaded, jam-packed Nebraska recruiting update. I'm fired up. If you are too, hit that like button. And also, this is the only channel on Nebraska YouTube that works hard every single day, all year long, to keep you informed with Huskers, whether it's recruiting updates just like this, breaking news, practice intel. If you want to stay up to date with Nebraska, this is the place for you. It's completely free, takes 2 seconds. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, we have a lot to talk about. We're getting to that point in the offseason where Nebraska recruiting is really starting to heat up. And as we like to talk about, gone are the days of players committing on National Signing Day, committing in November, committing in October. Every single recruit in the class of 2027, they're planning on committing going into March, going into April, really at the latest around July. So really, this is the peak period for Nebraska recruiting. You're going to see a lot of commits starting up right now. That's why the Huskers are having spring practice early so they can maximize this recruiting class. And of course, you see the headlines, Nebraska trying to land a top 5 class nationally. They're doing whatever it takes to do just that. So that being said, let's begin with the offensive line. All the headlines there, some vids coming very soon, but we have to start with the player who's expected to commit to Nebraska potentially today, potentially tomorrow, but at least in these next couple weeks. This is homegrown 3-star offensive tackle Barrett Cottrell coming out of Ashland Greenwood, of course, listed at 6'4", 270 pounds. One of the more athletic tackles we've seen come out of the state in some time now. Again, he's somebody who plays tackle, who plays guard, he plays basketball. He's somebody where, of course, he's a developmental piece, right? He's going to take some time for Nebraska, but you kind of see what they're doing here on the offensive line in this recruiting class. They're taking 2 different type of offensive linemen. They're taking guys with high upsides who definitely are project players like Matt Erickson, like Barrett Cottrell, and they're also going to take 5 stars, or at least going to try to take 5 stars, like an Albert Simeon, like a couple others we'll talk about in this very video. So Barrett Cottrell is somebody who certainly has upside. Certainly he's going to take time, but again, grew up a massive Nebraska fan. He checks a lot of boxes. Again, has great length, very physical, again, incredibly powerful, great in the running game. Not as polished in the pass pro, but again, just has everything to look for there. So that'll be a nice little combination with Matt Erickson. Both guys, a lot of upside. Both guys who will take a lot of time. But my question to you is this: with our brand new offensive line coach, Jeepway, do you trust his development or do you not? If you trust his development, you do believe that he's going to bring the best out of Barrett Cottrell, this is definitely a great addition. If you don't trust his development, yes, there's some question marks here, but again, Nebraska, this doesn't really change anything else we're going after, but Barrett Cottrell, crystal balls have rolled in over these past couple days. He's expected to commit to Nebraska very soon, and it was actually just posted by Trey Taylor last night that good news for Nebraska is coming very, very soon. Again, could be today, could be tomorrow, but again, that's expected to be Barrett Cottrell, so watch out for him. But that's the first of a couple commits expected very soon with Huskers. We'll talk about it as the video progresses. But as for the rest of the offensive line, I mean, let's get it rolling. Get Albert Simeon is visiting Nebraska, not this weekend, but next weekend, which will be a massive, massive weekend for the Huskers. Again, we'll discuss that in the next couple of days. But again, let's at 6'4", 300 pounds. We understand what his recruiting process has been. Pretty much been a 3-horse race. You got LSU, you got Texas A&M, who is the front runner. You have Nebraska. You also have, a couple others in there, Bama, Georgia, all the schools you'd imagine for the #1 guard in the country. But Albert Simeon, he's somebody where he's going to cost money, but more than anything, it comes down to playing immediately, comes down to fit, comes down to development. Right now, Texas A&M's made a huge push, and they have a lot of money on the table, but right now, Nebraska, again, if he can build their relationship with Jeep Wade, especially with Trey Taylor, right, if we can incentivize him on, hey, if you come here right away, you can play as a true freshman, right? That could be enough to get Albert Simeon here, but it's going to be very, very big for his recruitment next weekend, and hopefully we can get him back for an OV, but he's made it very clear he kind of wants to commit in March, maybe even April. This is not something that's going to really draw on for too much longer, but huge, huge weekend come for Albert Simeon. Watch out for that, but right now, once again, Texas A&M is still the favorite for his talents. You also have a couple other bids coming soon with the in-tier offensive line. You got Gus Korzer, who we just made his top 5. Again, he's a 4-star guard coming out of Kansas, right? Again, about 6'3", 300 pounds. He's visiting Nebraska around the spring game, so he's somebody certainly to watch out for. Has some legit offers in there nationwide. A lot of Midwest schools to watch out for, but he's still got Miami, got Oregon. Again, Nebraska has made his top 5, so watch out for Gus Korzer. But somebody who, again, G-Boy, the second he got here, really went after him hard. Somebody who we want in the inside offensive line. Again, as for Kyler Kuhn as well, again, he released his top 5 recently. It included Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Oregon, and what we thought was the favorite at the time, Penn State, and he dropped Penn State. Now he added Tennessee to that top 5, so now with Penn State kind of out of the picture, and he's going to visit Nebraska for a spring game and an official visit. I mean, it's pretty much down to Nebraska and the Missouri Tigers right now, but this is somebody who, again, I believe when it's all said and done for him, he's going to be a top 100 player in America, if not even top 50. Like he's, I mean, honestly, incredibly underrated. He's a top 10 guard in America, right? He's still underrated. He should be higher. So Nebraska, again, they've made it a priority to go after him, right? Coming out of our own backyard in Kansas City. Huskers doing a lot of good work there, but another guy who can expect to commit in these next couple weeks, in these next couple months, and he's not somebody you have to worry about decommitting, right? Again, when he commits, he's going to lock in. That's as good as him signing the dotted line. But honestly, the guards are looking good for Nebraska. However, you're kind of seeing something transpire with the tackles. It's not looking as good. Now, this all started pretty much yesterday with Olu, who we thought of all the tackles that we're going after, we have the best chance of landing. Crystal balls have rolled in for Texas A&M. And we know that Texas A&M, they've made a tremendous push in this class. They want, again, one of the best classes in America as well, and they have a lot of money. They're offering more money than Nebraska is. And this is the problem with the Huskers on the offensive line. It's the money problem. Now, I want to make this very clear. For everything I've heard, Nebraska is spending more money on this class than ever before, and it's not even close. Like, they understand in order to get these guys, they have to spend, but they're not going to be reckless. The issue is that Texas A&M is reckless. So Olu, listen, can you really fault him if let's say we offer him $1 million, which is a lot for a high school recruit, but it's not that absurd. Texas A&M might offer him 1.5, $2 million. Would you really, fault him for taking that and go to Texas A&M and potentially make the College Football playoffs? Like, again, that's the issue with Nebraska is like, we're going to offer a lot more money than like schools like Iowa, Missouri, stuff like that. Can we outbid the teams like Texas A&M, Oregon, Texas Tech? The problem is that we really can't and we won't. So Olu, it's not looking great there, even though we thought that was looking good. He's still going to visit Nebraska for the spring game, but right now Texas A&M is the favorite. They got a lot of money on the table. Mark Matthews, again, visiting Nebraska, very, very, very good sign. He'll be here for an official visit. We're technically in his top 4, but it's been noted multiple times by On3, Miami is the team to beat here. Now, of all the teams that spend money recklessly, Miami is near the top. We forget that in last year's class, they beat us out for Jackson Cantwell. They gave Jackson Cantwell a $2.5 million deal. They might give Mark Matthews a $3 million deal, especially because he's out of their own backyard. Is Nebraska going to match a $3 million offer for a 5-star tackle? You might say, again, these numbers are absurd, but again, that's the cost of winning nowadays in college football. That's just the way it is, right? That's a cost of winning. That's the cost of getting blue chip prospects who can play day one for you. But that's the case for, a Mark Matthews, even like a Kennedy Brown, right? You got Texas A&M in the mix. Okay, you have Texas Tech in the mix, all of which will spend $2 or $3 million on this guy. So again, Nebraska's done a really good job getting in the mix. Like Kennedy Brown's visited multiple times. Mark Matthews, we're in his top 4. Olu, we're in his top 3. But the issue is that these guys really aren't as realistic as maybe the Kyler Kuhns, the Gus Korzers of the world, and that's why you kind of see Nebraska pivoting. Like I wouldn't be shocked if Nebraska landed Albert Simmons. This is the guy who I think like we really have the best odds of landing because he's not all in about the money. He's still going to cost about $1 million as you'd expect. He's number 1 guard in America, but still, these tackles, right? It's a huge position. That's what you expect because again, it's that important. If you want to have a good offensive line, you have to spend, and that's seen not only in high school recruiting, but in the transfer portal. And if you think like, let's say Mark Matthews gets $2 million. You think that's a lot? A high quality transfer off to tackle is getting $5 million. So it's not like the transfer portal is, going to spend less. Like you're going to spend a lot more. But anyways, just wanted to note that around what's going on with the recruiting scene. But again, I still expect potentially to land a 5-star in here. Like Olu certainly off the table. Albert Seaman in a good spot. But again, we're going after kind of the high quality 4-stars now. But again, something to note. But again, all these prospects still visit Nebraska. But it's something to watch out for. Now on to the defensive line. For the first time in a long time, we're seeing movement with the interior. Now, this was kind of the big concern because Corey Brown, I mean, objectively not really good recruiter. We've had some issues there. We're building these relationships overnight with Terry Braden being fired. But of course, just announced that David Florishano, the #2 defensive lineman in America, now according to Rivals, is visiting Nebraska next weekend. So again, somebody right now, 13th best player in America, second best defensive lineman. Notre Dame certainly is the team to watch here, but they just offered him, right? So again, he's not going to commit to them anytime soon. He has every single offer you can imagine, but once again, it's somebody where he's not going to cost as much money as those other guys you talked about. Like he's probably not like a 7-figure guy, but he'll cost a little bit. But again, he's one of those players who's a day one impact guy. And again, Trey Taylor's made it clear, hey, I'm familiar with him. Both these guys from Chicago. We'll see if we can get him here. But again, visit Nebraska. That's huge. That's a huge development. But watch out for him, defensive tackle out of St. Patrick. But we've seen some more news with the defensive line. We've officially made the top 5 for Nyziah Obadi coming out of Minnesota. Again, listed at 6'2", about 280 pounds, 4-star, according to 24/7 Sports Composite. Now, yeah, has Wisconsin, there has Michigan State, has Missouri. Honestly, if Nebraska wants him, they'll get him. They'll get him 100%, right? We'll beat out all those schools. Not worried about Wisconsin whatsoever. Michigan State, I mean, they've actually done a really good job on the recruiting trail. Missouri has money, but again, this is somebody where, again, when you get like to the 3 stars, it's really not about money anymore. Like really the only time money really plays a part in recruiting is when we're talking these upper echelon 4 stars, the 5 stars of the world. Like this recruiting process really won't matter about money. We won't offer them a lot of money as will anybody else, but still, so it should be noted. It should be noted, right? And also, again, somebody who is a huge impact player, right? Again, physical, but also incredibly athletic out of Minnesota. They bring a lot of good defensive linemen out of that state, but just made his top 5. Waylon Wooten's visiting Nebraska in these next couple weeks. Again, you certainly still have Florida, Auburn, Ohio State in the mix here, but he visited Nebraska in January, was really impressed. Is coming back in Nebraska right now. Is considered the favorite for the big-time nose tackle coming out of Grayson in Georgia. As for the edge rusher position, it's becoming a little bit more of a concern. Now, Miles Smith is expected to visit Nebraska in these next couple weeks. Again, he's 6'5", 220. Again, exactly what Roman said the other day. We want people who are 6'5" at the edge rusher spot. Well, Miles Smith, he fits that description, right? You've seen Kentucky, you've seen Michigan State, jump off to an early lead here, but Nebraska will likely get the first crack at him. He'll visit around the spring game and should be back for an OV, but that's something to watch out for at the edge rusher spot. And also Nebraska setting up a visit with another 6'5" edge rusher, Chris Kasky, coming out of Illinois, somebody who we really, really like and think he's kind of a late bloomer there. But again, you see a common theme here. We're no longer going after undersized edge rushers. I mean, you guys with length, 6'5", 6'6", and you see that in both of those guys. All right, let's get to what's going on with the tight end position. Again, Cooper Twillinger right now, all signs point to a Penn State commitment. Now, again, that's not official just yet, but again, not looking phenomenal there for Nebraska. He still might visit the Huskers, right? There's been some sources who indicate he might be back for the spring game, might be back for an OV, but we'll see around Cooper Twillinger. Right now, Penn State the favorite. However, we're going after a new name at tight end who's visiting Nebraska in late March. This is Charles Davis coming out of California, 6'5", 200 pounds, pound for pound, one of the most athletic tight ends in this process. I mean, somebody who is more of a wide receiver than anything, but again, we're recruiting to play tight end. But somebody who, if you want a legit vertical threat tight end, which Nebraska hasn't had in years, this is the guy for you, right? Somebody who can break tackles, guys who can make you miss, great route runner. And there's a reason why Oregon right now is the favorite, along with again Michigan, California, UCLA, got a bunch of big time schools, but Nebraska again kind of in that top 6, top 7. He's visiting Nebraska and is going to check us out, but kind of our replacement for Cooper Twillinger. And also, again, I want to address this because every time Ahmad Hudson kind of trolls the Nebraska fan base, I get texts about it from the Husker fans. Just like, oh, is Ahmad Hudson going to commit? Apparently, he went on a social media app the other day and was talking about how he wants to commit to Nebraska very soon. Again, I tell you guys, like Ahmad Hudson, he is an Instagram troll. I love Ahmad Hudson. He's my guy, but he knows what he's doing, right? He's trying to get attention, right? So, again, he's committing still on July 4th. That's not changing. That's not moving up. But just want to address that again. A lot can change from then and now. I'm just not, again, I'm told you guys, I'm not buying stock. I'm not buying stock because I think it's going to come down to a lot of money and it's going to come down to LSU, which he loves. And I still, right now, believe it will be the LSU Tigers. But again, just wanted to update you guys on that situation. Let's get to the second commit who's expected very soon for Nebraska. Crystal balls have rolled in for Jacory Barney 2.0. Caden Howard coming out of Miami Palmetto, the same high school that Jacory went to. Again, he's literally a clone of Jacory. He looks like Jacory. He plays like Jacory. He has the same frame as Jacory, about 5'11", about 160. But again, this dude has freakish speed, freakish explosiveness, quickness. Nebraska believes that he'll be a four-star when it's all said and done. So I'm actually a huge fan of his game. Yeah, I mean, he's a stud, right? He's going to continue to blow up in the recruiting process, but crystal balls have rolled in. He's visiting Nebraska in a couple weeks. He'll be back for an official visit. Huskers have made it clear they want him now. Looks like he'll commit to the Huskers, I'd say, by the end of the month. But again, basically, Jacory Barney 2.0 plays like him, just like him. Big fan of this prospect, but watch out for Caden Howard coming out of Miami, Florida. As for the other wide receivers, kind of status quo. Again, Bowman expected to be back for an official visit. Nebraska still kind of the leader in the clubhouse here, but again, he's going to commit around June, around July. But again, the same schools that we'd imagine are still in there. Ole Miss, Tennessee, you got Ohio State in there, you got Miami, but Sean Bowman, Nebraska still leading the pack. Quinn Burrell visiting Nebraska in a couple weeks, right now listed as a top 10 wide receiver in the country, 6'2", 200. Again, big fan. Trey Taylor, both those guys out of Illinois, so watch out for Quinn Burrell. You also got Chris Harris, who we talked about very early in the process. This is a name that maybe a lot of people forgot. He was just ranked the other day by Rivals. They bumped him up tremendously to a four-star prospect, number 4 player in Missouri, against a top 40 wide receiver nationally. So just a name to watch out for. 6 foot tall, 180. I really like his game. Kind of reminds you like a little bit of a better Isaiah Mozee in a way. Like he's a solid prospect. But again, visit the Huskers multiple times along with us in Missouri. So watch out for Chris Harris Jr. there. But Nebraska is certainly in the process. And as for the DBs here, before we get to a quick 2028 update, again, still kind of status quo. JuJu Johnson, he's visiting Nebraska for Novi. It's Nebraska, Oklahoma, Miami. All those horses are kind of together, right? There's really no leader in the clubhouse. If I were to guess, it probably still is Oklahoma, but they have a brand new DB coach there, but a lot can change with JuJu Johnson. Still visiting Nebraska. Duve Williams, we thought we were out of the mix for him. He will visit Nebraska this month, and he might come back for an official visit, but kind of Nebraska, USC, Cal, a couple others in there. However, he got bumped down tremendously by Rivals recently. He used to be basically a 5-star prospect. Now he's not even top 200 in America. So if rankings mean anything to you, that's definitely an interesting sign. Also, I want to remind you, Bryce Williams, crystal balls are still in for him to commit to Nebraska now. Again, he'll visit Nebraska very, very soon, but somebody's made it clear he wants to commit around April. And if he were to commit, it will be to the Huskers. But again, 6'2", 180. One of the more lengthy corners we're going after, but Huskers are still a leader in the clubhouse for him. And then quick 2028 update before we get out of here. Giovanni Tuggle will visit Nebraska for the spring game. Again, he's the number 1 DB in America, right? I mean, this dude, he's phenomenal. Somebody asked me how much money it'll cost to get a guy like him. It'll probably be around $500, $600, maybe $700,000 at the very most. Probably only $500,000, but it'll cost some money to land a guy like him, right? And he's a generational DB recruit, hard hitter, speedy, again, 6 foot tall, 180. But we'll visit Nebraska. It's a huge development there. Huskers right now are leading the clubhouse. It's definitely a little ways away, but as we like to talk about, these recruiting processes are starting earlier and earlier. These guys want to commit earlier and earlier. So he might commit literally in April. He might commit in the summer. He might commit in the fall. Again, I think there's a misconception that a lot of these players like flip a million times. I mean, that doesn't really happen. Like players certainly decommit, but it's not like running rampant, But Giovanni Tuggle, somebody watch out for visiting Nebraska this month. Barron Marshall expected to be back for the spring game. Again, right now listed as one of the best receivers in the country in class 28. I already told you guys, I think he'll commit to Nebraska. I think he'll be our first commit in this class. And I would expect something by the time we get to May, to be honest with you. I think this will happen very, very quickly. And then Trey Talent expected to visit Nebraska next weekend, who should be Nebraska's only commit in the class 2028 at the quarterback position. So just get to know this guy, right? I watch this film. He reminds me a lot of like a more mobile Dwayne Haskins. Like I like his game, live arm, kind of a thicker built quarterback. But again, he's strong. He can make every single throw you'd imagine. Again, very, very competitive out of California, but just a name to watch out for. But again, that would be a heck of a start to the class 28. If you could start off with a top 10 wide receiver, a top 10 quarterback who Ohio State really wants, Georgia really wants, and Trey Towns, and also Giovanni Tuggle, the number 1 DB in America. I mean, that's a heck of a way to get things going. But again, we need to get our quarterback commit quickly because you're seeing the impact of Trey Taylor. We want to do the same thing with Trey Towns. All right, guys, that's a recruiting update. A lot of things going on. We'll have a huge update next week about, again, the weekend that's coming up, right? Because that'll be massive. And we already have a bunch of guys who are scheduled visiting, but we'll have more drop over these next couple of days. So I'll keep you posted on that. All right, guys, go Big Red, go Matt Rule. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.